Hello, check. All right. Welcome to my compound life. I'm Jonathan. Here's another episode of Bitcoin Ride, or come ride with me. We'll chat about Bitcoin and any other things that comes into my mind, right? So, what's happening? Today is what's today's date? It's the 4th of November morning. Extreme negative sentiment are all-time low for Bitcoin. I think just before I came out, Bitcoin price is approximately 103,500, right? So over the weekend, it has dropped from approximately 110,000 back down to 103,000, right? So approximately about a month ago, Bitcoin was at its peak of 126,000 US dollars, right? So I guess that's a lot of bad sentiment now on Bitcoin. And throughout the weekend, what I've seen on X, there are a lot of reporting about whales, Bitcoin OG. So these are people that holds a lot of Bitcoin, right, in the millions and billions, right? So what's happening here was a lot of these Bitcoin whales, OGs, or sometimes we call them, they are selling, right? And in a way, I think, maybe a lot of these users, they do kind of see that the 4 years Bitcoin cycle is coming to an end, right? Because based on historical past experience, the expectation would be Bitcoin would top sometime in this year Q4, so meaning October, November, or December, right? So I think due to the fact that a lot of such negative sentiment going on in the market, right? These Bitcoin whales are cashing out, they're leaving the market. Okay, so usually it leads on to a huge cascading effect where a lot more people will be leaving, leverage will be flushed, and so forth. But I think the purpose for this video is not to create more FUD, right? Because essentially in my Compound Life channel, it isn't really about short-term investing on Bitcoin, right? If somehow you stumble across my video, just with the expectation of I want to invest in Bitcoin, with the expectation of coming out of the market in a few months' time, if you have bought Bitcoin at the high price, anything above, I don't know, 120,000, right, US dollars, maybe you might need to look into exiting. Maybe if we're lucky, if Raopao's statement about the banana zone coming, when quantitative easing starts to get applied, that would be sometime in Q2 or Q1 or Q2 next year, right? So maybe that would be another exit, right? However, if you're a long-term investor like myself, I kind of treat Bitcoin as kind of like a bank, right? Especially after hearing about Rachel Reeves' budget today, where I think ultimately the implication would be we're going to apply more tax on on you people because of the deficit of the government debts are going too high up. There are simply too much debt, where every £10 of tax money that gets collected, £1 is being used to service the debt interest, right? So that's only the debt interest. So that's pretty terrible, right? So to me, knowing that a currency, our pounds or US dollars are, debasing, the values are vanishing, right? It makes sense for me to continue to accumulate Bitcoin, right? So if you're a long-term investor like myself, I'm not going to be the same old influencers on X or Facebook to ask you all to go in, start to accumulate Bitcoin at this price right now and buy the dip. That's not the right things to do, right? Because I think the market will eventually capitulate. It's gonna drop to its all-time low. But now at this point of time, 103,000 USD, I don't think it's the bottom yet, right? So unless if you're someone who's doing pound cost average, right, continue doing it, right? Don't let the market frightens you, right? Because since you set aside that money, this is kind of like a saving for the future. And this saving, you essentially won't see any huge return until the next cycle, right? Why do I always talk about the next cycle? Is essentially by the time the next cycle come, right, there will be Bitcoin halving, right? Essentially, it's gonna cause a huge Bitcoin shortage. There's a lot of cars coming. Just need to pay a little bit of attention on the traffic itself. Okay, so yes, coming back to our topic, I do believe Bitcoin will continuously go up, and that's where pound cost average really can take your mind away from the daily volatility, right? But at the same time, I somehow still believe that the next best time to get in will be the time when it draws closer to the halving event, right? So essentially, that will my next entry will probably be next November, sometime November, where I'll apply pound cost average to continue to stack Bitcoin and continue with my Bitcoin journey, right? So yeah, I think that's what I want to talk about. Whoever watched my video for the last couple of weeks, if you guys have been continuously taking profit, that's the right thing to do, right? The market situation, it's the sentiment, it's not getting any more positive or any stronger until further notice, but you never know, right? You never know. So always take profit. Taking profit, it's not weak. It's not like you became weak, that's why you take profit. Taking profit is actually pretty smart, because you're setting aside your pounds so that you can re-enter in the next Bitcoin halving event, right? So whomever took profit, congrats. I think you did the right thing. I think I did the right thing too. Because I'm obviously kind of retired, and I still need to, support the family and so forth, right? So having some money aside, it's always good. But at the same time, having some money aside will also enable me to accumulate at the low later in the future, right? But personally speaking, I don't think it's the right time to buy the dip or accumulate right now. Somehow I do feel that Bitcoin are trending lower. And also, I think there's a lot of emphasis about Bitcoin cycle, whether, are we still following the Bitcoin cycle, right? I personally think, based on the whales wallet selling Bitcoin over the weekend, I think a lot of OGs still believe that this Bitcoin cycle remains, right? So that's why they felt that, the time to cash out is October, November, December this year, right? So that's why they're cashing out, right? But certainly, if you're holding Bitcoin, I'm not emphasizing to ask you to sell all of it right now, right? Because in compound life, we know that the importance of compounding, right? And if you're not in a hurry to, use the money or to sell off your asset, I think you can continue to hold, right? Continue to hold, continue to hodl, let it compound for the next cycle, right? You definitely see a lot of return. So that's why I'm still holding a portion of my Bitcoin and not fully sell off. Okay, so another thing that really strikes me was Rachel Reeves' earlier budget speech. I think for sure, the knowing in terms of how much debt we are in right now, where she was blaming on weaker growth, high debt, approximately 2.6 trillion pound of debt, and that's pretty bad, right? And of course, the focus continued to be on NHS, which I think sometimes can be a burden because NHS are actually funding a lot of non-residents. I shouldn't even be saying that, but anyway, so the whole anticipation, I think, with knowing that her focus would be on debt reduction, cost of living relief. I don't think there will be any relief, to be honest, with so much tax added on, personal tax, business tax, and so forth, right? I think all of that would be pushed down onto us, right? So there will be an ongoing inflation. Pound's gonna get weaker. So that's why I somehow think, we simply need to treat Bitcoin as a new way of banking, right? A little bit of like buying gold. But personally, I still felt buying Bitcoin would be better off than buying gold, right? So it's compound life. It's all about saving and having the ability to buy assets in a way that we wouldn't be restricted by the pound debasement, for instance, right? So we're storing more values, let it compound over a period of time. I somehow felt, I personally haven't stacked. Hello there, mate. I haven't personally stacked enough Bitcoin. So that's why I'm in the phase of stacking cash right now. Okay, stacking cash. I know that I need to stack more Bitcoin, but I'm stacking cash right now to prepare myself mentally and financially getting into the next phase of accumulation. And that accumulation isn't now, right? that accumulation will be sometime in November next year, right? So I do look forward to that. I do look forward for Bitcoin to go up and down, right? It shouldn't really be affecting our sentiment, especially knowing the fact that, if we treat it as an asset class that compounds over a period of time, an asset class that will help us to store value, and an asset class that is helping us in a way to get away from, the traditional banking, right? So yes, that's how we should really be treating it. Yeah, I think that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, so time for gym, right? Catch you later. Bye.